Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest here at Laughing Place. My name is Rebecca Mosley. I'm the site's co-founder, and with me is our CEO, Ben G. Breitbart. Ben, we just got back from an amazing 4 days, 5 days, I guess, kind of 4 days-ish.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's kind
uh, baseball lover's dream, set up by ESPN. I will let you kind of introduce it a little bit.
Hey, so we took the inaugural ESPN Experience, powered by Adventured by Disney, which was basically a 4-day ballpark extravaganza. So we started off, we checked in and went to a night game at Fenway, got a tour of the park. Um, we met um, the. It was sort of kicked off at the hotel with I believe the television voice of the Red Sox, Dave O'Brien, who also does some work for ACC, ESPN's ACC network. We met Wally the Green Monster. We had some ballpark food, and our seats were atop the Green Monster, which is the most novel seat we had the whole time. Um,
Right?
then and then just to give the overview, then we went we went to Bristol, we went to a Yankee game in New York, we went to a Phillies game in Philadelphia, and so it was really interesting. I mean, I guess I think it's important to give my history here about why I took the trip and my fandom of ESPN. Um, I became a sports fan in 1995 when Disney acquired ABC Cap Cities and henceforth ESPN, and therefore needed to understand and learn about ESPN. Ooh, nice mug there, nice little plug there. Um, and I've come to really enjoy sports and the storytelling of sports and the broadcasting of sports. I mean, obviously, Roone Allridge has a huge legacy at Disney, including mentoring a young Bob Iger. Um, but but I didn't take this trip because I just needed to see four ball games. I took it because I was really curious to see how ESPN, a media part of the company, was going to create an experience part of their brand by partnering with an existing Disney venture, which is the experiences business, the ABD slash Nat Geo team over at the I forget what they call it, but the the trip part of the company, the excursion group. And so I was really curious. I did it mainly just out of curiosity.
Now,
Not so much that I needed to do this trip. I'm very glad I did, but I really was curious to see how this all came together.
yeah, okay. So you've done a few adventures by Disney. I want to say five maybe
Eight.
or so. Oh, eight. Okay. So you've done eight. I've done one. The one I did was in like Yellowstone. So it was very um outdoorsy. It was based right here in the States, so no language barrier. Yours were more adventurous. I know, you've been to places like India and Egypt and these types of situations where you're not only dealing with a place that's unfamiliar, but you're also dealing with a language barrier. So to have that kind of white glove Disney umbrella bubble, so to speak, is makes that kind of travel a little less intimidating. But that's not the case here. I mean, we all been to ballparks. We know most of the realities of taking a ballpark tour or whatnot. These are things you can book on your own. So Ben, knowing we were Disney fans, was like, hey, let's go check this out and see how does Disney through ESPN kind of put their stamp on a baseball experience, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right in that I don't need help to get to Yankee Stadium. And to me, the appeal was going to Bristol. I mean,
Yes.
because it's sort of, I've been to WDI, I've been to Pixar, I've been to Disney Studios, obviously. I've been to a lot of different places, but it's one place I had not been, and one place that's sort of built up to be this mecca of sports broadcasting, which it is. But I want to check it out. I mean, I didn't expect anything super crazy, but like you it takes a lot to produce as much content as ESPN does on a daily basis across the 47 channels or whatever they have now, or ESPN Plus and all that.
Okay,
It
so
was
let's share.
surprised.
you touched briefly on day one. Let's share just kind of a few images of what day one looked like. We got these nice badges that we were able to put our names on, because you traveled with about 30 people or so. The size is going to be about 30 to 45 for these experiences, as they've explained on their website. So you kind of get to know your fellow travelers throughout the event. We happened to be there for a bobblehead night, so
Yeah,
we were able to get the bobblehead. And then they had baseballs that all of the dignitaries, I'll call them, who were going to be joining us could sign. But then they also offered us, the inaugural tour, a chance to sign them, saying that one of them was going to be going to Disney and one of them was going to be sticking around ESPN. And just to be kind of part of that was fun as part of the inaugural.
I think it was interesting too. We expected, I guess, on an adventure by Disney, kind of know the guest mix you're going to get. You're going to get families and Disney folks, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people who want to travel with Disney, who love Disney, but also families who just want to see a site and don't want to have to deal with, managing a family, right? On these trips. I didn't know what to expect with the guest mix of an ESPN ballpark trip. I
Correct.
will say, um, I was surprised. I'm surprised not the right word. I was happy about the sort of diversity of interest. You had some hardcore baseball fans, you had some hardcore ESPN fans, you had some folks on the more casual side who just wanted a special experience. You had adults only. You had people coming with kids. Um, you had it was a nice little mix, and no one really seemed to have an oil and water situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was a diverse enough group that it wasn't too broy, it wasn't too old, it wasn't too young. It kind of just was a nice mix of folks.
And our and with ABD, you tend to have two, what they call adventure guides. It sounds like, well, no, I should say, with the ESPN experience, they were going with the nomenclature of coach, but we tended to just call him our guide. His name was Mike. He was very Boston. He was exactly what you would want. He showed up with his Boston Red Sox hat. He was instantly your buddy. I mean, I don't know if that's how he struck you, but for me, I felt instantly at ease, but he also felt like knowledgeable. I felt like I could rely on him.
Yeah, it was interesting because I've done a lot of adventures by Disney. I've had several of the same guides several times, and they have typically come from like Disneyland guest relations or entertainment, or they have that Disney veneer. And not that Mike wasn't Disney,
No.
but it was overwhelmed by his Bostonness, which I've
Yep.
never had on an adventure guide before. Now Mike does adventure by Disney trips, so I just didn't happen to have Mike. But and so I was curious to see what kind of guide, coach, whatever would end up. And they seem to have found the perfect. He still provided the service. It wasn't like
Yes.
you had anything less than that. But he knew how to play up the sports angle. He knew the rivalries. He knew ESPN, and so it worked out really well. Now we were supposed to have two. There was a situation which caused us to have one, just
Mhm.
in case, just if you were comparing the ABD. So they had some folks from ESPN kind of supplement and fill in that second guide role, which is a little bit different than having two got actual adventure by Disney guides. But um, he didn't miss a beat. He still was able to execute all the photos that are sort of an adventure by Disney hallmark, and making sure we got off the bus, and and all those the snacks on the bus, that which were probably more bountiful than they wanted at the end because they had a hard time. They maybe over purchased. Um,
They
Considering we were eating, it's not like an Adventures by Disney trip where you have your meal, you eat, and then you go on the bus. You're at a ballpark um, with like unlimited food.
Yes.
And so you're a little bit more stuffed than you would be on, I think, a typical. Not that you're ever underfed, but it's not a plated meal. It's just constant food coming at you.
Yeah, so at Fenway, while we were atop the Green Monster, there were hot dogs, there were hamburgers, there were lobster rolls, there was clam chowder, beer, plenty of beer. You could, go grab your beer, soft drinks, obviously water. So yeah. Oh, there was ice cream in a helmet at one point during this trip. Yes, there was. Oh, there was for sure. But that was so day and the hotel that they picked, as always, Adventures by Disney does an amazing job curating hotels, and it wasn't any different with this experience. We were walking distance from Fenway. In fact, opening the window to our room here, let me pull up that picture real quick and share it with all of you, because we all walked into the room and we're just like, wow. You swing open the curtains and there's Fenway right there. So it was pretty incredible, an amazing location. Some of the crew spotted Theo Epstein in the hotel while we were there. So I mean, it has that authentic baseballness to it. One of the elevators had signatures all over it. Steve Garvey, Pedro Martinez,
Scott
Keith
Boras.
Hernandez. Who'd you see? Oh yeah, Scott Boras. So it was pretty cool. Gio's asking, was there a minimum age? I can't recall if there was. That would be information on the ESPN Experiences.
I am looking that up. I'm sure
website.
there was, but
So,
just give me a minute. I'll get that answer for you.
Yeah, no worries. So, and being able to participate in Sweet Caroline was everything I wanted it to be. Sadly, the home team did not win for poor Mike, our guide, our coach. They didn't pull out a Red Sox victory for him and the other Boston fans among us, but we had a few Toronto fans in the group, so they were happy the away team took the W that evening. We almost saw a triple play that night, which, for baseball fans, that's like not very common. If you're not a baseball fan, don't know that, it's not very common. So we were on the edge of our seats kind of hoping for that, but didn't quite make its way to the 1, 2, 3. But
there doesn't seem to be, I mean, just to go, there doesn't seem to be a stated minimum age.
Yeah.
However, I would say you probably want to be 8, 9, 10 for this one.
Yeah, Mike did a great job also of kind of corralling us as we would, go from location to location, making sure to count heads and pay attention. So, and then the next day, day 2, was the day that we were most looking forward to, because we're ESPN fans, as Benji points out. He talked a little bit about his career, his passion at the beginning. ESPN used to be the soundtrack of my day. I would pretty much wake up, have Mike and Mike, have Rosillo and Cannell, and I would have Cowherd at times, maybe Dan Levitard's show, make my way to PTI, Around the Horn. I mean, it was pretty much an all-day thing, but slowly over time, I kind of drifted away from ESPN, and as some of those voices disappeared, they kind of, they left gaps in my day, and I kind of drifted away. So this was for me a chance to kind of to go to a place that was like, I don't know, it felt like nostalgia, like kind of going back to your high school or something. It was I was so excited to see the place where past memories had been created. What I wasn't prepared for was how diving back into that rekindled my passion. So here's a few looks of around ESPN. So arriving at ESPN, Ben, what was your take?
It was interesting because it's in the middle of nowhere, and they always joke it's in the middle of nowhere, but I kind of figured over the years, like, it would have been built up. It's still in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And there's different buildings, but there's like the 2 main buildings connected with a bridge, and there's the newer building, which is the one you always see in pictures with like the retro ESPN sign or the catchphrase wall. And then you have the older building, which looks like exactly like a 1970s office building that's been converted into a studios. Or it might have been custom built, but it was still just felt like, that carpet. We went down the Manning hallway,
yes,
where
did.
They kick each other in the rear. And
they did it. I can vouch for that. Ben and Dewey did recreate the Manning brothers moment.
But what was interesting was, I've been on a lot of sound stages, and you always go like, wow, this is so much smaller than normal. those sound stages are huge. They're
Huge.
big, and they're just as big as they seem, if possibly even bigger. Little stages that I thought would be like just they're actually fairly normal size. Then the Sports Center one is huge. The NFL one they use for NFL Live and things like that's huge. So I was shocked by that.
Yes. No,
Um,
agreed. The Sports Center stage in particular, there's that legendary Sports Center desk. They let us stand behind it and take pictures. And then to the left, as we were standing at the desk, are those stairs that you see so many times with the big screen behind it. I would not have thought that there was as much space between one and the other as there was. It was. I mean, it's a little bit of a walk to get yourself set up over at those stairs, which they did not let us on because they didn't want us to fall. But that's I appreciate them looking out for our safety. But that was one of the few things. I mean, really, they were very much engaging in we initially started off kind of in command central, I'll call it, for Sports Center. It has a technical name that I don't remember. You probably do, Ben.
I just called it the booth.
Yeah.
It's probably
Okay.
better name.
So we were in the booth, and then before they took us directly into the studio, they actually took us over to the audio booth, and inside the audio booth, they were letting us hit the buttons and make the magic happen in our room. There, we were
I
able to hit the what? Yes, go ahead.
I want to say there were no photography restrictions at all.
Correct. Only video wasn't
Right.
permitted.
And
Photography, go for it.
in the audiobook, I had no idea that like those highlights when they play the music underneath them, like just some guy like hitting a button, like it's not like edited together. They're just doing everything. I mean, because everything is so quick and fast that
Mm-hmm.
there's just a guy in a little audio booth that's going like, oh, this seems like and he has different options, more baseball style or hard hitting football or sort of a mellow version for something maybe a little bit sad, and just trying to click the different ones. They had a special. They just had the college football game played in Ireland, so they had a special like Ireland Irish version. So I guess it makes sense. I just never thought about it.
I found the holiday one in pushing buttons. I found the holiday one. I say pushing buttons. It's actually a touch screen with various squares, and then the squares are color coordinated. The part that I found interesting in that was that they actually track which audio drops get used, because obviously there's like rights that you're paying for when you play these audio sounds. And so if certain ones aren't don't end up catching the attention of their audio team and get used infrequently, then they can let them drop and fade. And so they don't keep paying royalties or paying, to utilize audio clips that nobody wants. So I thought that was interesting that they can actually kind of trace how frequently various audio sounds are used. Our group was large enough that they broke us out into 4 groups. So that way, I mean, because you went from large locations like the Sports Center studio to really small spaces, individual offices, to learn more about kind of that behind the scenes tech side. So they broke us out into 4 groups, which was really nice because we were able to better, kind of flow through the facility. We were teamed with this amazing woman. She has been with ESPN for, I want to say, 20, 25, 27 years.
27 years.
Her name is Arlid, right? That's my memory. But her career has been such that she helped mic up the Big Show. That was part of her role, and just to hear her story, because she was in that kind of behind the scenes role, and then went to a different role that would be seen as kind of a promotion. And then after a while there, kind of came back, and she told us that when she initially showed back up, I want to say it was it Berman, she said, asked her, who'd you tick off? And she was like, no, I missed it over here. So maybe it was Bob, Bob, but yeah, it was, her stories were great, her insights were phenomenal, and they were able to allow us, by kind of stroke of timing, to listen in as the director was taking the team through the live sports center that was happening while we were in the midst of our tour. And I mean, it's one thing to watch like this is sports center behind the scenes or something, but to be there in the studio and experiencing, I don't know, Ben, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we got to create our own ESPN graphics. You could go to a little system and type in a baseball player's name, and I wrote down like Mike Trout gets hurt again, and
Oh,
like you just made the graphics. You got to play with the touch screen that they use on a lot of football broadcasts and basketball broadcasts.
and what was so cool about that was it was one that they had just been using earlier that day. That is the game that happened the night before that had been part of the college football broadcast earlier in the day, and that is the screen that they train those guys on when they're like Teddy. He mentioned Teddy Bruschi specifically. He comes down here, he messes around with it. We were when he was learning it, we were working with him. So it's so, I mean, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, and we got to see how they put in the commercials and you take the different feeds and put it out as a network, and you could hear them setting up to go to commercial, and they talk about how sometimes they have to add commercials and the craziness that happens if a game goes long and tries to coordinate all that stuff. So it was really cool. And then we had a special guest for lunch
Yes, we
who
did.
who I became a fan of, the ESPN radio play-by-play for baseball, Doug Glanville,
Yes.
who I mean, brilliant man. I mean, good looking,
So sharp.
just smart,
Yeah.
and loved and was just so gracious. I mean, that was the thing that got me, was everyone was just so generous with their time, and
Mm-hmm.
it sort of became an ongoing thing because we would ask people like, "Oh, what's your favorite ballpark to broadcast from? What's your least favorite?" So it became we kept trying to ask people how they would describe broadcasting from Nationals Park, and Doug said it was like when you go up to the booth, it's like bumping your head on the International Space Station.
So that was kind of what kicked it off. Was so he was asked which are the most challenging, which ones do you like, which ones are challenging, and he talked about how nationals, it's challenging because you're so high up. He said, in fact, you bump your head on the space station, and that kind of ended up sparking, as Benji points out, yeah, totally ended up sparking that question being asked of everyone. But like you say, he was so gracious with his time. We actually were having lunch as he was sharing with us his journey throughout baseball, some of the lessons he learned, some of the experiences he had. He did not have an easy go of it when it came to making his way to the bigs. And so I really appreciated learning kind of about I don't know, I don't want to say the struggle, but I mean, it was, but just learning to stay focused. Don't let other people dictate your success, and hearing that from him, I really appreciated it, and it's something I'm going to carry with me. And it was unexpected. Was not familiar with him because, like I say, I've kind of shied away. I've disappeared from ESPN over the years, so this for me was a rediscovery of why I loved ESPN, and it was everywhere. ESPN for me was like they were storytellers, and I love storytellers. That's part of why I'm a Disney fan. And everywhere we went, that was this. I mean, the hospitality, the ability to communicate with us, what was going on, make incredibly complicated things tangible and understandable to those of us, who don't deal in sports broadcast, who don't deal in broadcast at all. It was really impressive. And yeah, I fell in love with ESPN. I mean, spoiler alert, since I've been home, I have listened to more ESPN, watched more ESPN than I have since January of this year. In the past.
I I can't watch it the same way because now that you've seen the
Oh, that
set,
too.
you see the different setups, and you're like, oh, they're using the ESPN bet lighting, and now they're going to switch to the ESPN 6 p.m. lighting, and you're like, oh, who knew
I
that
had,
every different sports center had a different lighting package?
I had no
Because it
idea.
makes sense. Bright during the day, kind of darker, in the night. I mean, it makes total sense when you think about it, but
Yep.
and that's kind of I mean, it's a WDI level attention to detail, just broadcast as opposed to an experience. And you know what you were talking about listening to the director. I mean, just the fact that they had to shift things because that afternoon sports center, there's sports happening. The U.S. Open is happening, and just watch. Okay, no, move Hannah over here. We're going to do it this way. Change the lighting, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is real. This isn't a joke.
And not only in that way, but they have something that's like a mini volume at ESPN. They took us into this studio, and there was this robotic camera that they nicknamed Wally because it has its own personality. And there's an overhead robotic camera that they call Eve, right? Because you can't have Wally without Eve. But the room itself, it has an LED floor, and it has this enormous backdrop that they're able to present anywhere on the backdrop. And by using that floor lighting, they can illuminate you in such a way that it's as if you are on. And for us, because we're Disney dweebs, they put us in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle. They put us in front of Tatooine. But they actually they had recently used it during the NHL playoffs. They were able to bring the Stanley Cup to Bristol, and then using this volumetric set, make it appear as if the cup had traveled the globe. So cool. I had no idea they had something like that in Bristol.
Yeah,
I don't
cool.
read this stuff like you do.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the Infinity stage over at Disney, and it's a little bit of a different kind of setup. But just to know that it was basically in like some extra space they had, they made this whole volumetric set with this LED wall and everything, and you're like, as they call it, the Catalyst stage, and and everywhere you turn, there was, I mean, you think about, okay, how they always have those helmets on the, when there's a matchup. Oh, there's the helmet storage room of all the different helmets that they need for, college game day or whatever, college, I guess college football today or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's neat. I mean, but what I was struck most about the whole visit was the passion that everyone there seemed to have for it. We went to, I'm going to forget the name, but a place where, they add all the extra stuff to the highlight. So like the distance, a runner runs, or, how far a home run went or everything. And just, that they can turn that around in at most an hour. You're like, oh, like someone has to come in with that idea and concept and piece it all together.
It was, I mean, and they took us through, and they explained to us how they make it happen. And like you say, I was surprised. I would have thought it would take longer, and I would have thought it would more people involved. I was kind of surprised with how in some ways you almost take ownership of that. And then, before it moves over to the next, before it moves over for presentation for broadcast, that's the word I'm looking for broadcast. I would have thought there were many, many, many more, but no, it's they have some they have like proprietary dynamics on available software in order to bring that kind of thing to life, the spotlight on the player as he's running. And they took us through all of those things, and they answered all of our silly questions as well. And they were so patient with us as we asked questions, because sometimes you drop in a little bit of jargon, and you'd ask them, and they'd, oh yeah, and they'd take you back, and they would explain that little bit of information as well. But like you say, the thing that really got me was the passion for the storytelling, the desire, the focus to get it right, of course, but to make something accessible to the fan, to add to the enjoyment. Yeah, no, it was pretty epic. I'm still basking in the fun that it was. And as somebody who's been watching ESPN for a long time, seeing so many names, Chris Berman, they have some banners hanging up along the wall that various SportsCenter and other ESPN broadcasters have signed, and pulling out names I know, or from years gone by, was so very much fun. There was this portion we walked by, it was a Mike flag wall, and it was all these different shows that have been on ESPN over the years, and many memories for me popped up. Cold pizza, the flag for cold pizza was up there. The flag for highly questionable was up there. So Sports Nation was there as well. And what was really fun was then on Tuesday when I was watching ESPN, the opening for the show for Unsportsmanlike was showing that Mike flag wall. It was so cool. I was like, I know that wall. I saw that wall just a few days ago. So
Yeah, there was a lot of it was. I didn't know what to expect, and honestly, at first you go there, and maybe it's just because I saw that huge backup in that SportsCenter anchor commercial where they can't get the float into
yes,
the gate. I was
gate
like,
is narrow.
yeah, you pull in, you're like, okay, it's not necessarily as big initially. I mean, I know there's other buildings, but when you get in there and how much they're able to do is really quite impressive.
I will say I expected to see a few more ESPN personalities, not meeting and greeting us, but in the way like sometimes when you're at Universal Studios, like in the distance, you'll see, oh, there's, they're filming the latest episode of I will go with A Good Place over there. And oh, hey, I can see Ted Danson in the distance. I kind of thought but that campus is much bigger than I realized. I also get it was Labor Day weekend and a Friday, but it's big. I didn't
Yeah,
expect it.
and I knew they
Oh, yeah.
created when they created the digital center. I remember that was such a big deal, but it was. I guess I was the level of access. I was just really surprised. I mean, I've done studio tours at various places, and I've done some neat. I mean, they all been pretty neat, but there was just like it felt like you couldn't go in a wrong door. There was not, it's not like when you go to WDI. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
different. But you go where there's like, okay, here you can go take the monorail hallway to the gift shop, and then you can look here and there. But and it was, and they were so, and for a place that you haven't been able to go, it's not open for tours or things like that. They were
Correct.
so open with their uh, conversation and access, and they're still trying to produce. I mean, it's the first weekend of college football. It's not exactly a slow period for them.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was. I had high expectations, and it exceeded them.
Yeah. Shelly saying I would have totally geeked out. Well, you would have fit right in with us because we were totally geeking out. It was a lot of fun, and they did a really great job of. They took us to the Baseball Tonight set, which obviously that means so much to the passionate baseball fans that were on the tour. They're familiar with those locations. They've seen them from week to week, so they did that. But we're at ESPN, so we got to see SportsCenter. We got to see the NFL stage, where they do NFL Live and college football and NHL hockey, as it turns out. So it was, yeah, and the SportsCenter listen in that we mentioned, that was one of those things where it happened to work out, and they worked to make it happen for us, and it wasn't just simple. We were because of the way the timing was, I was really impressed that they were like, it was one of those things where you could tell it hit the tour guide's thought. Oh, you know what? We had to pull in the SportsCenter. That means you guys can listen. Let's all go to this booth over here. Push this button, this button. Okay, now you can hear, and she was taking us through and explaining it to us, and then made sure to let the other tours know, because like I mentioned, there were several of us. Let the other tours know, hey, if you head over there in a few minutes, they're going to come back from the break we just heard them count down to, so you guys will be able to catch some of the SportsCenter behind the scenes. So yeah, like I say, there were so many moving parts throughout the day at ESPN, and watching them all doing their best to showcase it for us, was really impressive, and I appreciated it very much. I felt so welcome. I didn't feel like
And
I was
very,
invading their office, even though I was invading their office. They made me feel so welcome.
and you had the tour was led by someone who works. It's not like there was a tour guide department, right? They have a real job, and occasionally they do tours. And um, you no question. I can't think of any question where she just wouldn't answer or didn't try to answer, or there was no like random. I mean, I had a really weird questions, just just sort of technical, not super technical, but just like how does ESPN handle when this happens?
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered, and well, they'll give you the answer.
Yep.
It was
Do
really
we
cool. And it
need
was cool to
next?
see the old ESPN, the original sort of office, and then the brand new one that has a totally different vibe, but still feels like ESPN. So
Yeah. Okay, so we've gushed about ESPN for a while. Should we move on to where we headed up next?
yeah, New York City.
That's it, right. As the afternoon arrived, we made our way up to New York. At
I
which
should
point, yes, go ahead,
I
Mr.
should
Ben.
say on the bus ride from away from Boston, they played
That's
the
right.
4 days 30 for 30 about the ALCS, the 2003 ALCS, and or 2004 ALCS, and then the
Bus ride to New
uh,
York.
York, we had about Mike and the Mad Dog. We
Mm-hmm.
had the one about the new Yankee Stadium, whose name I'm
Mm-hmm.
forgetting, but and then the one about the first pitch that George W. Bush threw after 9/11 at the World Series. So it was we got our 30 for 30 fix in.
Yes, 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 we did. Arriving in Times Square, which is where our New York hotel was. You guys, you and Doobie, decided to head out and go check out a Broadway show. You saw Aladdin. How was that?
It was good. It was actually it was understudy Aladdin's first performance, so it was neat because all the cast at the end was just like yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So it was
that's
neat to
cool.
see. You couldn't tell, I mean, otherwise because he was phenomenal. But
Well, my son and I just enjoyed an evening in. We ordered some room service and just enjoyed being chill. Um, Now, Mike Torres, our coach, he offered to anyone who wanted to. He took them on a walking tour throughout Manhattan. So I know they ended up going to St. Patrick's Cathedral. I know they ended up going through Times Square. As I recall, he said Times Square. So yeah, so the people who wanted to tour in a group, Mike had their back, and they all had a nice time, kind of evening exploring Manhattan. The next morning, it was bright and early. We had a nice breakfast there at the hotel. It was a nice buffet. They had some pancakes and syrup, some eggs, potatoes. It was I mean, it was simple, but it was nice. It wasn't like a continental pastry only kind of thing. So you could get a nice hearty breakfast. You could get some oatmeal as well. And then it was time to head over to Yankee Stadium, where they had arranged a tour for us that was magnificent. One of the things that Adventures by Disney does is not only do they arrange for you to have a tour of a facility within, but they curate who they are choosing to guide you on that tour. So if there is a large museum staff, you're going to get one of the cream of the crop of that museum. That's what I've discovered through a few of my experiences, and our Yankee Stadium guide was no different.
yeah, and it was interesting because you didn't see anything that I would say was off, behind the scenes or anything like that. But
Correct.
his storytelling made like the fact that he was just basically walking around the ballpark fantastic. And he was welcoming to everybody, even those in Boston hats. But
Mhm.
he was a really great tour guide. And
Now we did get into. They have us like a small kind of Yankee museum. I want to say behind home plate, but I can't remember for sure where it was. And we were there before the park gates opened, and we were out at Monument Park before gates opened as well. So it was not crowded. It was a little less densely populated when we were experiencing some of those locations. Growing up a Dodger fan, I just called this a memorialization of my heartbreaks. Being going to the Yankee Museum, and then we headed to our suite, which was over in right field. Man, the suite is nice because this first of all, the stadium seats were cushy, which surprised me. And like it was nice, all right. So I think I'm remembering that correctly. Jimmy can correct me if I'm wrong, but and we had a nice guest for our.
Well, we had a couple of guests. The first guest we got was Michael Kay, television voice of the New York Yankees. It was funny because he came in and just started talking like about the game. Like,
yes,
I think here's what I'm thinking. Here's how the pitching's going. Here's and there was a gentleman next to us who I think was having like a aneurysm. I mean, it was just he was so excited to meet Michael Kay. Now,
yes.
I don't listen to local Yankee broadcasts on Yes or anything like that, but I had heard of Michael Kay because he also has an ESPN radio show, and he was very thoughtful, very knowledgeable about baseball. His national park thing was that you're sitting next to God when you're broadcasting from Nationals Park.
Correct.
So,
yes, when you're broadcasting a Nationals game, yes.
So that was pretty cool. But he was billed. We knew we were going to talk to him.
Yes.
But we also had some other special guests.
Yes, we did.
Arda Okal, NHL SportsCenter host, also the sideline. Is it sideline? Rinkside reporter for the Big City Greens Classic 1 and 2. And one of the co-hosts of the ESPN podcast, Never Tell Me the Odds, the official ESPN Star Wars podcast. Yes, that's a thing. And so got a chance to just talk to him about Star Wars and the podcast. And that was really pretty cool.
That was amazing. I got turned on to this podcast because of you. Thankfully, you told me about it. But it is a beautiful mix of sports and Star Wars. And yeah, I love it when those two things combine. Hence, I ended up getting this. Our guide picked that up for me. Check it out. The Philly Fanatic as a Jedi. Who wouldn't love that? Okay.
And it's funny because you met Marty McGee, one of the other co-hosts, a couple weeks
earlier. Ryan. I met Ryan McGee at D23. So yeah, so I have now met 2/3 of the team. I just have Clinton Yates left, but I met their producer at D23. But yeah, I'm excited talking to them. I hope that it will further their understanding of the niche that it has. I'm hoping that maybe we can have some May the 4th fun, maybe some Life Day fun. I would love to have like a meetup. Can you imagine like a Galaxy's Edge meetup with the Never Tell Me the Odds crew? I mean, that would be such a hoot. I would have fun.
But I mean, it goes back to too, like, talking to him about it, you just got the passion he has. So, I mean, it's not like it's a, Get Up or, or
right.
Sports Center or something, but just make, and having the flexibility to just make it happen, is at Disney, just like any big company, there's sometimes just barriers to get anything done. But it seems like they have a chance to do stuff, which was really cool to talk about that. And, like, I mean, I've heard his voice countless times, and like, oh man, like, yeah, I know who you are, man, that's cool. And then we had another special guest who you have a connection with.
Yeah. So as it happens, I used to listen to Mike and Mike in the morning, and I used to listen to Russillo and Cannell, and among their team was Michelle Smallman. Now she, I didn't realize that she was still kind of in that ESPN universe, like I say, because I had kind of checked out after so many voices I appreciated had left or moved over to other time frames or whatnot. And I learned that she hosts a morning show because she was there. Oh, when Benji. Okay, so this is one of those things. I was sitting there and and she came in, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. It's an ESPN person. And then they said it was Michelle Smallman. Now, see, I know her voice. I I don't think I'd ever seen her before. So, oh my goodness, yeah, no, I got like all teary eyed, and I had to go, like, I was sitting off to the side, and they're like, you should go talk to her. You should go talk to her. I'm like, well, I will once I won't be just a blubbering pile of mush.
Yeah, I want to say third inning, like you finally got the.
Well, okay, so I was about to go talk to her when I realized she was on her way to talk to me. So somebody had snitched and told her that I knew of her career through ESPN, that I remembered her from Rosillo and Cannell. And so yeah, but it was so great to, I mean, it was so great to chat with her. But even better, knowing that she's on Sportsmanlike, I tuned in on Tuesday, and remembering all the reasons why I connected. We have so many of the same interests. She's talking about, she was picking her team because she is a St. Louis girl, and the Rams, left her behind. And so she didn't have an NFL team. I don't have an NFL team. So hearing her talk about, life as a fan of the NFL without like a passionate team, I was like, okay, I can relate. And so they did a bachelorette thing with her. And so she went through and gave a rose, and she's finally picked her team. And I'm really happy. I'm eager to see how it works out. I really hope it works out better for her than it did for this season's bachelorette, because woo, that's some drama, let me say.
I'm not up to speed, but I just the amount of ABC news alerts I got about that. I mean, I don't know if the Bachelor experiences are coming to Adventures by Disney, but
no. Like I say, Big Brother has a better track record in reality television of relationships than the Bachelor franchise. But yeah, so just all of that, I was like, oh, I listened I not only listened the past 2 days, but I'm going back and listening to the podcast because they turn a year old tomorrow. And so I'm going back and listening to podcasts of the previous shows that I missed because I didn't know that she had a morning show. So, and I'm sure we wrote it up here at Laughing Place, and it just didn't connect with me in the moment. So yeah, I super excited about that. It was very fun to sit and talk with her for a while. She was there with her dad, St. Louis Cardinal fans, and they were able to see a victory, which was the Cardinals' first there in the new stadium, and I think a first Cardinal win in New York in a really long time as well. I don't think that they tend to do well in New York overall, let alone within the new ballpark. So that was pretty epic. So like I say, it just rekindled what I love about ESPN. And in the bottom left there, that picture, that's Steve, that passionate Yankee fan who was on our trip, along with Mike, our Red Sox guide. And where else are you going to see them arm in arm singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? Yankee fan, Red Sox fan coming together.
And I think it's interesting that I had expected that ESPN was going to be a highlight, but and I mean, at the surface level, we were watching a Yankee game from a suite, which is attainable for everybody.
Yes.
But being able to have that connection to the talent, and not just because they're famous, but because they're knowledgeable about their sport,
yes,
and talk to them about their work at ESPN, about the game, about their fandom, that you couldn't replicate. And it wasn't, you can't put it in a brochure either. And, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this chat with you was I want to make sure so much of what made this special was intangible.
Yes.
It was not, you can't be like, even if you said, I mean, we'll talk about the final day in a bit, which was mind blowing, but, you can't put like, if you say access to ESPN talent, you're going to think it's a dry, like oh, hey, good to see you. I mean, we've done those. We've done Star Wars weekends. We've done, okay, move along. You never felt, I mean, I'm looking here, I'm talking to Michael K, and you're like, don't you have a game to do? Like, why are you still here with us?
Yeah, no, so generous with his time before the game. And then throughout I mean, they were there the whole game. Michelle and Arlo were there. Is his name Arlo? I'm going to say it wrong.
Arda.
Arda. They were. I'm going to combine his first and last name. They were there the entire game, and they would engage with you. You know, you would talk to them for a bit, then you'd watch the game for a bit, then they'd come and they'd say something. I mean, it was really just like you felt like you were hanging out with a bunch of friends. Among them were these people who work at ESPN. Right. And then they brought out an all-you-can-eat ice cream bar. Scoops of ice cream and Yankee helmets with all kinds. I mean, we're not talking low quality we're talking raspberry syrup, dark chocolate, like a really tasty chocolate syrup, along with the usual sprinkles and Oreo and M&Ms, and it was mini M&Ms, which are always
so two of my favorite things on this trip. Actually, we'll talk about the Philly game there, but when there's a bang at the door of the suite, and you're like, "What?" So at Yankee Stadium, it was an ice cream bar with the little helmets and some great ice cream, and then we'll talk about the Phillies when we get there.
Yeah. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't rinse out the helmet and make sure I took it home with me.
I thought about it.
In the moment, I couldn't because I'm an Angel fan. I don't want to have Yankee stuff in my house. I'm a Southern California girl.
That was good ice cream.
It was some good ice cream. It really was. In fact, I think my son indulged a bit too much in the tasty ice cream because he was like feeling it later. So, and during the game, they brought out just before they sang "God Bless America," a 90 plus, I want to say 97-year-old veteran Korean War was amazing. I mean, they brought him out onto the field just before we sang and talked about his career, just before we sang "God Bless America," and I mean, he had a little dust in his eye. You could tell, and not only did I come away from this with a reminder of ESPN, but I also was more deeply reminded of just how special baseball and sports are as a kind of a great unifier. No matter what garbage and stuff is going on in your life outside the walls, you come in, you kind of let it just wash away, you invest in these guys out on the field playing a kid's game. And you have some fun. Maybe you work out a little frustration yelling at a play you're disappointed in, but you're doing it alongside the guy beside you who agrees with you that or you get into a hearty debate over who is the greatest pitcher or and it's
another great game, by the way.
Yes, it was. And it was one of those that was slow, like mellow to begin. So we were able to just kind of enjoy and have a good time and soak in the environment. And then you didn't want to miss the game. Then it got really focused. Grand Slam we missed by this much, right? Oh man. So it was some good baseball. Let me say. That was so much fun. But my son came home a Yankee fan.
Oh.
Yeah, he did. Look. So yeah, I'm learning to deal with that. Wish me luck.
At least not a Raider fan.
Yeah, true.
So we went back to the city after that, man, and took Giddy to 1985.
That would be Back to the Future, the musical. Oh, bad. Getting coming going. Wouldn't say a fan yet. Just have stuff. You guys enjoyed Back to the Future. I heard it was okay. You've seen it before when it was very new. What
first preview?
So what would you say? Would you say that it's improved if you feel it? Because I know you didn't come away from it with very high marks.
Oh no, I enjoyed it the first time. It's better now that they've settled into it.
Okay.
And it's not a great musical, but it's a great time.
Okay.
Technically, as a musical, there's weird song choices and stuff.
Okay. But you guys had so much fun. You guys had so much fun. It was very clear to me when you came back. I just relaxed and went and got myself a Hamantaschen at the bakery across the street, and really appreciated that. Oh, hang on. Okay,
No,
I got.
for when you.
I got. Um. So yeah, so I stopped at the bakery across the street and grabbed myself a little snack and enjoyed a nice quiet evening in the room while you guys were off at the musical because we had to be up early again the next morning and West Coast East Coast thing, so I wanted to make sure I got a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I got. I mean, this is not them. This is me trying to maximize time. I did not get great sleep. Not sleep was fine. The beds were fine. Not like that, but just it was tiring.
And then the next morning, they arranged for us before we left Manhattan proper to go to the Jackie Robinson Museum. And our bus driver made such good time that we had a little bit of time beforehand. So we drove around. Um, we saw the Statue of Liberty. We drove by the memorial for 9/11. So we saw the fountains that not fountains, but the reflective pools that they have now where the towers had stood. So we got to do that, and then it was time to pull into the as Doobie says, thank you, Nicole. She was an amazing bus driver. And we pulled into the Jackie Robinson Museum, and we were able to be there before it officially opened to the public. So it was just us 30 people there, and that's where we met up with ESPN trivia guru. And what other titles does he have? Because that's what I think of him as.
Producer,
Yeah.
radio host,
father. Yeah, Hembo. He's known as Hembo on the radio. His first name's actually Paul, but he's known as Hembo. Get Up producer. That's what it is. Co-host of #Greenie, and as Ben points out, he's a new dad. So his wife had just had a baby a few days prior, so we weren't sure if he was going to be there. And he did show up to share with us his knowledge, but initially he just joined us as another guest on the Jackie Robinson tour. What'd you think, Ben? This is a beautiful museum, by the way.
Yeah, I was surprised. It doesn't look like much from the outside. And so you go.
And a very big footprint.
Yeah, and obviously I'm somewhat familiar with Jackie Robinson, but our guide, one of the sort of researchers that works there, was fantastic. Just was able, and not in a sort of depressing way, but in an optimistic way, just show the different roles Jackie had, the struggles Jackie had, but how he was able to overcome them, and the partners he had, and the struggles he had, and the achievements, and just and we got to see a true Negro League uniform, which is rare. If I believe he says the only one in the collection, museum collection, and they had a recreation of Ebbets Field and various, and just really inspiring. It's Jackie Robinson he's so quoted that it almost takes away the personality behind it because retired and all. You know him as 42, the number, the movie, all that, and I don't know, really brought me to tears. It was just, I'm so glad to have seen the progress we've made since then. But the struggle, the burden he must have faced, all the stupid out there in the world at the time. I appreciate his sacrifices and his wife's sacrifices to, break through and finally make baseball the true American pastime.
One of the things that I really admired about the way that they've done the Jackie Robinson Museum is when you first enter, to the left is kind of his public life that obviously baseball is woven into, but they don't specifically focus on the baseball. It's just kind of a part of his biography, as it were. And then when you make the right, that's where kind of his baseball career is celebrated. And when you do enter that museum and you're off on the left and you're kind of get an overview of his biography, they made a point of putting kind of what I would consider the uglier aspect of what he had to do, not hit you in the face, I appreciate that they didn't shy away from how ugly it was for him, but yet didn't let it be what is overpowering, because clearly it was his activism, it was the way he chose to step forward in the midst of all that that you want to walk away from the museum with. And it's hard sometimes to have that proper balance where you don't let that negativity be the overriding message, the overriding vibe. And so I was really impressed with the way that they curated the museum, the way they've designed the exhibits. It's very interactive, to where you have kind of an initial exhibit, and then if you want to, there's a touch screen, and you can kind of dive down deeper and deeper into it right there at the museum, and really learn more about Jackie and his wife, Rachel. They always talked about the two of them. He always talked about the two of them. It's very clear that she had a tremendous part in the success that he had. And she's still with us. She's still, they say her mental acuity is phenomenal, because she's 100 plus now. So they were talking about that. And we happened to have been there shortly after the anniversary of Chadwick Boseman's death. And he portrayed Jackie in the movie. So for me, that was also another kind of poignant, just by stroke of timing, that we ended up there around that time. Also, my dad was a Brooklyn Dodger fan growing up, and it was in part because of Jackie Robinson. And Jackie, post-career, was involved with Chuck Fullinet's coffee, and we drank that in our house in part because of Jackie and his role as an executive within the company. And it just so happened that on their wall they had a Brooklyn Dodgers button that is very much like one I still own, that my dad, I kind of took from my dad. My dad's still with us, but I have the button. So, because he knows I love buttons. So, at some point it just became part of my collection. But it was fun to see that little piece of history in a museum, knowing I have it at home because of my dad's love of Jackie. So was able to stop by the gift shop and get him something. If he's watching now, he knows that, because I haven't sent it to him yet, but it's on its way. It will be on its way soon. So just I don't know, a great way to kind of anchor, because his number 42 has been retired in all ballparks, which led to kind of a funny moment that our tour guide shared, and that was I don't remember which ball player it was, but he was saying that there was a ball player that one year was like, wow, that 42, it's been on just about every stadium I've been to. How many teams did he play for? I just thought that was kind of a fun story. The idea that because his number had been retired across baseball, this poor guy didn't realize that no, he didn't actually play for all those teams. That's just what we've done. So it's kind of cute.
Yeah, and it was, the team there was just spectacular. I mean, just so courteous, And,
yes. So if you're in Manhattan and you have a chance, and not only if you're a baseball fan, seriously, it's an American history museum that happens to be about a baseball player.
Right.
So I would definitely highly recommend the museum. Just really, well done. And then it was into the bus for our trip to Philadelphia. And this is where that guy caught up on sleep.
Yep.
I was sitting behind him.
No, you're gonna have to lead here, because I
just nodded off while we got our very own personal ESPN radio show, I will call it, because our friend, now I call him our friend now, Hembo, because he was our guide on this portion. He was up there having fun, sharing facts. He was asking trivia questions and answering trivia questions, and just discussing baseball and entering to be, like I say, it was like a call-in show in person, hosted by Hembo, the whole way between New York and Philadelphia. Amazing. Another highlight was looking off to the left of the bus and seeing the Statue of Liberty as we were driving. And then Doobie, my husband, is a big Hembo fan, and they knew that because he'd been talking so much about it. In fact, he had DM'd Hembo through socials, letting him know how much he was looking forward to it. And so they gave him a seat up near the front. Mike, our guide, made sure that Dewey had a seat right up there in the front so that he could chat with Hembo during the trip. And I just tell you, my husband had like a little boy smile on his face. It was great, and I know that it caused a few new fans because I was helping some people figure out how to listen to #Greenie or after the tour. So yeah, he was a delight, and I can't believe, considering how little sleep I suspect he's having as a new dad, how delightful he was, what a great host he was for that trip. And the fact that ESPN made that happen as part of this experience is really super cool. I mean, like I say, your own personal little radio show is pretty epic.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was asleep, but I know Jimmy, besides the fact that they still let him go on the trip after sliding Tampa's DMs.
Right? So then we arrived in Philadelphia. Our hotel was right there in the historic area. Look out your window and you see Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, and then is it a Constitution Museum? I guess is that's what I'm going to call it. At the other end, it was really really beautiful. I think it was right there too. I might be remembering wrong. I know the Independence Hall was there.
Constitution Hall and
yeah.
is right there.
And then we had a little bit of time before the ball game. So Mike arranged for all of us to head up to the stairs so we could do our best Rocky impersonations. So there are many pictures of all of us jumping up and down, doing our best Rocky. And we grabbed what I will describe as the best sandwich I've had in my life. Right, Benji?
Yes. So we went to this like food hall, and I had been snacking and I wasn't super hungry, and just the cacophony of a food hall is just never really my jam, especially as crazy as that place was. So I was just like, I can eat later. We're gonna go to the ballpark and have. And then Rebecca gets the sandwich and she goes, "This is the best sandwich I've ever had in my life." And I'm like, well, dang, I missed out on the best sandwich ever. And then she's like, "Oh, we have the other half. I'm not going to finish it." I was like, well, I'm not going to turn down the best sandwich ever. And you were right. That was the best sandwich ever.
It was Thanksgiving on a roll. It was for this company called Original Turkey, and it was like the most moist, beautifully cooked turkey you've ever had in your life, coupled with stuffing, mashed potatoes, and enough cranberry sauce to give it a little bit of tang. Ooh. Oh, yes.
Now I'm hungry again.
It was so good. And then it was time for our ball game at Citizens Bank Park.
Yes. And so we go into the suite. So Hembo's giving us the whole rundown.
He's a passionate Phillies fan.
And we didn't do a ballpark tour this time because it's not Fenway or Yankee Stadium.
Right. No.
But we went in there, and Hembo offered, and we went to our suite, which was a beautiful suite with the sort of forward section that's in the outside, and then sort of party suite in the back. And Hembo offered to take
people on a history. See that there's like a kind of a history exhibit that you can do. You can see like the history of the Phillies.
But I chose to stay back just to I just wanted to absorb this moment. Like I just needed a minute to kind of process the whole weekend. But then you guys returned, and the Sunday Night Baseball crew, the entire Sunday Night Baseball crew, including Doug Glanville, who returned to say hello because he missed us. So Paul Ravitch, David Cohn, Eduardo Perez, Buster Olney. I mean, and it wasn't like hi, thanks for coming, and we hope you enjoy your ESPN experience. I mean, they were just chatting with us. I talked to Carl Ravitch about the League World Series, and that segued into his passion for sports, and how it's supposed to be fun. And we got his Nationals Park it's like being on a cloud.
Yes, no, and they're like ants. The players.
So I think next time I watch a Nationals broadcast, I'm gonna think about all of this every time.
Right? 100%. But he was so charming. They were, once again, everybody was so friendly. I haven't watched Sunday Night Baseball in a while, so I couldn't have told you beyond Carl Ravitch who even is calling Sunday night games anymore. But I'm a fan now. I mean, they were all so delightful. But Carl Ravitch, my son, isn't a big baseball fan, but he was along with us on this tour. He was kind of sitting off to the side, and I was talking and with Mr. Ravitch, and he said, oh, I see you have a teenage son over there. Would he come take a picture if we asked him? I'm like, oh, of course, yeah, totally. So hey, Giddy, come over. I mean, he was the one who reached out to my son. I am sure that will only further Gideon's interest in baseball. That was kind of peaked a little bit, kind of poked out a little bit with this adventure, because Gideon loves storytelling. He's like me, he loves storytelling, and he learned more about the craft of storytelling when it comes to baseball. The fact that you're watching a drama happen each night on the field, and you have your stars and you have your winners and you have your losers, and sometimes unfortunately you have your tragedy, and other times you have a wild just fun, frivolity, craziness. So yeah. Oh, and Buster was there. I couldn't believe it. I've been watching him on ESPN for forever, do reports on baseball, and had a chance to talk to him in person. I didn't. I stayed on the other side of the room, but he was there. I could have gone and talked to him. Um, and Doobie enjoyed seeing the variety of personalities. Like Buster was not quite as gregarious and jumping in. He's a writer. I'm not, it's like it's exactly what I would have expected. Whereas Carl was making his way all around the room. Eduardo was like really joking, like really engaging with people.
When David Cohn was like, it's like, thanks so much for being here. I was like, you're David Cohn. You don't need to thank me for nothing.
Yep.
Think
it was it was amazing to just the door open and then name after name after name come through that door. Like, it was quite an experience. And there we all were in the suite and chatting. And if you popped in the suite, you would have seen just like little groups here and there, chatting with different people. And then they made sure to kind of swap around. It was so casual and just delightful. And like I say, and yet we all knew, hey, when are they leaving? Because don't they have a game to call? Don't they have, prep to be doing? And
I mean, and there's also the VP of production for Major League Baseball happened to be there, and then eventually the true celebrity came.
Yes.
There was a bang at the door, and in came the Philly fanatic himself.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And gave Mike the appropriate ribbing for wearing his Red Sox fan.
Oh, it was beautiful. He snatched it off his head, rubbed it on his armpits, pretend like he was going to throw it away, and Mike turned white as a sheet. Mike was convinced he was going to have to try to figure out this. It was so beautiful. It was perfection. And then we got our picture with him.
There was one guest who I loved on this trip who was just like, it's like, I met the Philly fanatic. This whole trip was worth it.
It was so good. Oh man. And once again, when it comes to baseball and its role in the community, it was Childhood Cancer Night. And so they had a beautiful golden ribbon, which is the symbol for childhood cancer, out on the field that the families held. They gave everybody in the stands a yellow ribbon to hold. And I want to say it was the bottom of the sixth. It's just that moment when everybody in the stadium's holding that up and the families are there. And just that community. They had various kids do like the, play ball. They had one do what they call the ceremonial first swing, or maybe first home run or something. And it was this tiny little girl. I think she was just starting first, maybe kindergarten or first grade, after going through they laid out all the different treatments that she's been undergoing, and that she, is cancer free, and, starting school. And then she ran the first base line, giving all the players a high five, made her way out to second where there was a player waiting for her. He sent her over to third, and then she gave the other team high fives all the way to the plate. It
I
was
mean,
just
both teams that went out on
both
the
teams
sidelines and
totally on the baseline.
yeah, and it was neat to see.
Yeah, and once again, like I say, for me, it was just a reminder of why I love baseball. What is so special about sports? I know they do this in other sports too, but why ESPN and Disney makes sense for me. Oh, Gio, your niece loves the Fanatic. Gideon came home with a Fanatic. So, oh man, and out on the field, he was everything that I had hoped for because I've grown up seeing his bloopers for forever and his fun for forever. And so seeing him out there on his little ATV zooming through center field and around the stadium, yeah, it was some good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I hadn't been to a Phillies game before, so I wasn't quite prepared for the fanaticism. I mean, no pun intended, but like because I grew up an Oakland A's fan, then I became an Angels fan, so I was an American League sort of guy. I didn't go to a lot of there were virtually no Philly games, and so you would see the Red Sox were coming to town to be crazy. The Yankees were coming into town to be crazy, but man, those Philly fans, they beer sales were not light.
it was so loud. Yeah, that's what Doobie, my husband, coming in and saying. I've heard Philly fans are as loud as anyone. They proved it. That stadium was so very, very loud. But I will forever be thankful that my memory. It was a game. It was a walk-off game. It was a
Extra
double. It
innings
was
game.
a double up the middle. I was torn between college football and baseball by this time in the game. And it's bad on me for trying to watch baseball and college football when the game is on the line, bottom of extra innings. I was looking at Kirk Herbstreit's beautiful golden retriever Ben when I heard the crack and the roar, and I turned just in time to see the ball make its way out into center field. It was, oh yeah, as Jimmy points out, Hembo hung around. He was there throughout the game too.
I
So
would like to say if they do a college football version of this and Kirk Herbstreit's doing the broadcast, a Ben meet and greet would be awesome.
at least one of the, yeah, a chance to meet at least one of the retrievers in the family would be lovely. But yeah, it was so, and it's just for me, it just, well, I don't know, it just felt like the perfect memory because I I'm a ESPN fan again. Like I care
Well,
again.
and it's funny because it's like it's an extra innings game, and there was no discussion of us leaving. Like no, like it wasn't like we gotta get out of the suite. They're closing
No,
up.
no,
We were
no.
gonna be true ESPN fans and stick until that
In,
last out, which was
in fact, we were told we were not going to leave the suite swiftly after the game either. So that way we were all going to stay together as we encountered the Philly fan on the way out.
which we did.
And we did. Yes, we did. But this was finally a home team win. So we
Yeah, I
finally,
know.
finally
It's a
got
good thing I didn't use it. So ESPN Bet is official partner of the Philadelphia Phillies. So it's like, oh, I should download ESPN Bet and bet on the away team because they
they hadn't been doing well on our tour. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, so very fun. I had such a good time.
it
It
was
was,
funny. I mean, if you want to go inside LP, I'm in the suite and the news comes out that DirecTV has blocked out all the Disney networks, including ESPN. So
yeah.
I'm literally surrounded by ESPN people as I'm working with Kyle to get the ESPN blockout story up. In fact, our hotel had DirecTV, so we couldn't watch ESPN after this was all said and done.
Yep.
And I mean that's it's just it was just funny to be like I'm literally talking to people who used to negotiate carriage right deals as I'm covering carriage right deals.
So cool. It was,
And I just wanted to go on another one. Like, I mean, they don't have another one
right?
announced, but I just wanted to. If they said, "Hey, give me $500 now for a deposit or whatever," it would have been. and
Mm-hmm.
for the next, and I don't care what sport it would have been. It
Right?
could have been Australian rules football, World's Strongest Man. I don't know. I just want to be
Dodgeball on the Ocho.
right. Yeah. Can you imagine the Ocho weekend? That would be awesome.
That was what I came away from this. I was like, oh, this would be no matter what the sport, this would be. But yeah, because ESPN, the service, the surety, because it was one of those things where we were told leading up to this, the weather guys were all telling us we were going to get a lot of rainouts. We were going to be lucky if we got a game. It's going to be rain, rain, rain all weekend out there in the Northeast. And so we were really curious how it was going to be if there was rain out. But what I wasn't sure was, I would say I wasn't sure what would happen, but I knew I wouldn't be disappointed.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't end up having a lot of, logistical hiccups.
No.
I mean, that Sunday night game that could have been flexed. The Phillies could
Mm-hmm.
have stank up, and then it just wasn't going to be the game anymore, or there could have been rain delays. There could have been all sorts of things that came up, but I never worried that I wasn't going to have, even if I missed a game, that just being surrounded by those people. I mean, the game was great, but that wasn't the highlight.
No.
It was being surrounded by, even if it was just talking to these guys during a rain delay for 3 hours, I would not have minded. If it was, it would have been fine. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, as I said, I'm not even like, I always feel sort of inadequate when it comes to sports, because I like sports, I follow sports, but I'm not, watching ESPN every day. I'm not watching Pat McAfee every day.
Mm-mm.
I watch it as I can, or I mean, I got the U.S. Open on today. And I'm not. I like baseball because of it's a fun thing to do in person, but I don't follow sports as closely as the most passionate sports fans do. But I didn't need to do this. Those that did still had a great time and could ask
Mm-hmm.
great questions, and I mean, in a similar way to, like, you don't have to be my level of a Disney fan to go to D23. You may get something extra out of it, but you can still have a great time if you're a casual Disney fan.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not enough left in there's not enough in the brain to have a huge sports encyclopedia hembo style in my brain, because I can, I know who all the 9 old men are and the order of their deaths, but I don't know, I can't recall who, the number one number in baseball for every person, those people who, oh, who's the greatest 32 in baseball? Oh, well, that's, that I can't do. So, but I didn't need to, and I was comfortable, and it was a whole lot of fun.
Right.
I just, my only regret is if I go to the website today, it's still promoting this adventure, this experience, and not the next one that I can
Mm-hmm.
book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be honestly at this point, I'm more excited about hopefully the next ESPN experience than going on the Disney Treasure,
Really?
because I've been on the Wish. I know what it's going to be. It's just going to, I'm excited to do it. I'm going to do it, but it's not going to be that moment. It's not going to be a special moment like this was, where it's just a unique moment in history that sports is, right? It's not like an Adventures by Disney where, you're going to go see Machu Picchu in Peru, and it's always going to, doesn't change much day to day, and it's the same tour. If you do it this year, you do it next year. Whereas these games will never be repeated. This group of talent will never be reassembled. This group of guests will never. I mean,
No, I
it
get what you're saying.
it's this, and being on the inaugural. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be more. I can't promise, but
If you
it
could,
could be
if
one of those things where be like, remember we did that like one thing that kind of disappeared and never happened again. But
if you could pick the next, if they don't book it baseball, because baseball makes the most sense because you have game after game after game, and you can go regional, right? So you can pick different regions or whatever. But if you could pick any sport, what sport beyond baseball would you most like to see a ESPN experience?
college football, not
Ooh.
because I'm a huge college football fan, but the traditions and the excitement. I mean, I would love to do all those weird bowl games that have all those weird traditions.
Yeah.
And just go. I mean, it's not because you're not going to know who the teams are, and college football has weird scheduling things that just make that a logistical nightmare. But can you imagine just going to like the Cheez-It Bowl and the Pop Tart Bowl and just like all those weird things they do at those events, and get to see the teams and the marching bands, and the parade, for the those that have parades, the parades. Like I want to get in. I every year Marty McGee comes out and just talks about all his favorite bowl games, right? And
Right.
I would love to do that.
Marty Smith,
Marty and
Ryan
McGee,
McGee.
Marty McGee from Marty and McGee. Yes, sorry.
It's okay. It's a Marty party. Ryan McGee. Come on.
Marty Smith was like sunbathing when we were on some broadcast while we were at ESPN. So I don't know what was going on there,
He was
but
having some sort of Marty party. Don't know exactly what was going on. Meanwhile, they were both turned into those whatever they're called, where this like inflatable, and then their
yeah,
arms are flapping all over the place. So that popped up in our feed while we were hanging out. I agree with Gio. See, I'd like the NFL. That'd be fun. But you do kind of do like a weekendy thing, focus on one of the teams up in the Northeast, and then. But okay, but here's the thing: you just went to Bristol. Could you go to Bristol again and still
oh
be as
yeah.
loud?
I mean, it would be. It's not. I mean, I don't know if I'd be as loud, but I would go again a heartbeat because I don't think we even scratched the surface. And it's in a dynamic place, right?
Yep.
They're constantly changing, and
Yep.
um,
They have so many
I
different
would
people.
I would love if they had that opportunity for us just to sit and watch a broadcast, like not necessarily in the room, but just listen to that feed while they're broadcasting would
Yes.
have been really cool.
Yes. If we that place where we sat and listened to Glanville, if we would have sat there at some point and just had like Sports Center on in front of us, but hearing all the behind the
Yeah,
no, that would be incredible. And there's just so many different personalities, and each one has their own story as to how they got there. Um, and there's so many, I can't believe how many different hands are involved in the creation of everything that we enjoy so much. And I know it was funny because Carl Ravitch asked me what was the highlight of the trip, and I said being in Bristol, and the shock and the look on his face was like, I'm in essence, that's my office. I'm ready to leave there, kind of thing. And I told him, I said, I get that it's your job, your workspace. I said, but for me, it's where all that magic, has been made that I've enjoyed. So having a chance to see that it's always amazing. It's like, yeah, I had such a, thanks for bringing us. I had such a good time. It was so much fun.
it's funny because like as a former cast member, you'd be like, welcome to Magic Kingdom, that magical place I like to call work, and so but they probably don't, obviously the Magic Kingdom is a very desirable place to go, and people don't it's that same sort of disconnect. It's like the place I work is desirable for people to visit, and I almost got the sense, and I don't want to engage in hyperbole, but I almost got the sense that the people we talked to got their pixie dust, or whatever the sports equivalent would be, refilled a bit by seeing our enthusiasm for their work.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes, we
And
don't
so,
we don't only like I say, I am unusual, and I know I'm unusual, and that's part of the reason why I ended up on this tour. I am a sports casual ESPN passionate, and my level of interest in sports waned when my level of interest in ESPN waned, because I'm a baseball fan, and that stays, but other things, other sports, NFL, NHL, NBA. I'm not as big of a fan of those, but when ESPN had my heart, I was watching more of that. But even when I wasn't watching the games, I was still tuning into ESPN to hear about the games, even if I wasn't watching the games, because I enjoy good storytelling. And I enjoyed ESPN for its storytelling about sports. And so that was part of what yeah, exactly. Like Michelle said, she's in a booth with two guys most of the time. That was one of the things talking with Michelle Smallman. She's they don't. It's not like they're doing it in front of an audience. So the chance for them to actually see faces connected to what they do, I'm sure is great. Because when I was thinking about that, Ben, as we were at the event, I was thinking about what a difference it must be for ESPN with the way that the radio market has shifted. Because you don't have a lot of that. I don't know what, like radio tours. It used to be you would hear Mike and Mike back in the day. They were going to go to Cleveland because that radio affiliate was going to have some big event and they were going to be showcased, or then they were going to go to Chicago, or they were going to be. And I just don't get the sense that maybe that is happening in the same way anymore, as the radio market has shifted so much more as podcasting and everything. And so it was kind of fun for them, I think, on the flip side, to also have people maybe miss ESPN the weekend.
Yeah, it is. And it's almost funny because I was thinking, it's like I would love to have like this experience, except for the other brands. Like I would love to have a Disney. There's adventures by Disney, but they're not Disney trips. There's backstage magic. But like, I would love to have like Disney weekend in New York, or Disney premiere. Let's say Moana 2, like a Moana 2 celebration and anticipation of the movie, or a tour of Lucasfilm and the screening of the latest episode of whatever is on at that time. Like, I think ESPN really is, and I don't know how this business is going to evolve, and it will evolve. It's not going to be this trip is not going to be the one trip they do and it stays the same for the next 5 years. They're going to tweak and they're going to do different things, but it's I really think they were creative and smart in how they launched this product. I think there's some work they can do on the marketing side and getting the word out. But I think they were wise to kind of make this a pilot, didn't kind of push it too hard, kind of get some experience under their belt, and then see how it plays out as this business hopefully grows.
Yeah.
Because, as we get into, launching flagship next year and all the other, as ESPN tries to find its place in the sports ecosystem, it's important that they are a brand in and of itself. And I don't just mean like, because they have a lot of hot take artists. I mean, because they are known for understanding sports fans and delivering for sports fans across everything. ESPN is not a cable channel. It's a sports brand, and that of which something it is a cable channel. But, I think in the slimming down of ESPN, I was concerned that they were not willing to kind of be that leading sports brand. And something like this really shows that, they were so willing to try new things and innovate. And, we've seen a lot of ESPN products come and go. I saw my ESPN phone somewhere, if you need a full experience. I should have brought that. I didn't mention that at all to anybody, but that's a whole conversation. But it's neat to see them try something new, and I think succeed. And hopefully we'll be able to invest in this and make, it's never going to be like, the cable bundle, but, a nice little way to bring us closer to the ESPN brand, and then hopefully, show, build a stronger connection, which will then play out kind of in the same way D23 builds out a connection, with Disney fans. It'd be nice if this is kind of their way of saying, hey, ESPN, you want to be part of ESPN? You want to be here, celebrate ESPN? Maybe something they do is tied around the ESPYs in the future, and, or, other marquee product they have. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I don't have any.
Right. I know, like I said,
I want to say, but
I'm a Disney fan. So ultimately, when Disney has something, I want to like it. I'm a fan. That's how I go in. And I left this event with my heart full for ESPN again. I had not been, I've said it so many times today, but ESPN had been the soundtrack of my day from the beginning of my day till about the time my husband would get off work, kind of thing. And we would share what we had been listening to, because I have it on at home in the background, and he would be listening to it, and we would chat about the various things that were happening. And it was a way for me to better understand sports, because I'm not a sports passionate, I'm a sports casual. And now with Never Tell Me the Odds had kept me kind of just on that cusp of ESPN-ness, but this really drove home what I loved about it, how it felt like, I kind of was having coffee in the morning with friends. So tuning into Unsportsmanlike hit that. And the one person that I kind of would have liked to have stumbled on, since it was baseball, was Kirchin, because I'm a big fan of his. And being able to have seen him would have been incredible, but it made me wonder, I wonder what Tim Kirchin's up to. Timmy, as so many of them would call him all the time. And I found out he's doing a podcast with his son. So I've already listened to several episodes of that podcast. And like I say, so over the past few days since we got home from this event, I've consumed more ESPN since I did before. So yeah, they gave me, they hooked me back on the Benji. You just sent me something. Do you want me to share that, or I?
Yeah, no, I think it's sort of funny how it all played out. But
okay.
My friend Bob here.
Oh no way! Cool.
He shared something on Instagram celebrating the fact that the worldwide leader in sports is celebrating its anniversary today. So happy 45th anniversary to ESPN. Makes me realize 30 for 30 was 15 years ago. So that's great.
Wow.
And
there you go. You can see, you can get a nice overview
of
it. So if you look at that Instagram, we got to go to that building and through that bridge and over to the other building. And we didn't go anywhere near the building that's over by all those satellites.
Yeah. And so basically we went to that building you see on the far left and then took the bridge over to the building you see on the right there. We didn't go to what looks like the cafeteria.
Our bus parked here. We entered here. We took this little bridge here. I think the cafeteria is over here nowadays, from what I remember.
Yeah, so you can see the umbrellas on. I mean,
yeah.
Like the outside that can.
So yeah. So you just get a feel for what little portion of the campus we ended up seeing, but we felt like we saw so much. It was so amazing and so appreciative.
You didn't feel like you're missing something,
No,
I'm sure there's HR departments and things, but
and as we left, they gave us this beautiful mug, which I was appreciative of, because unlike when you visit, WDI, or they didn't take us to like a company store, so like I could have spent too much money on ESPN branded merchandise, but they did give us this beautiful mug as we left, and it's perfect because it's hot or cold, and I use it for my water as I sit here and chat about what a wonderful time we had.
Yeah, that's one thing that differentiates ESPN Experiences from an ABD. There was plenty of beer.
There was so much. It was wonderful. There was plenty, and it was good, a variety, not only like just only a Bud, or only you had a few, not a lot of microbrews, but oh man, it was, we had some fun with that.
I mean, I don't drink, but it was nice that it was an option.
And in some cases, they even had wine available up in the suite. You could have opted for wine if you're not a rare person. I think at Fenway there was hard seltzers available for people who enjoy that. So yeah, so good. They took really good care of us. Comparing it to your ABD experience, because you've done ABD experiences, and this is not an inexpensive venture. I mean, this is a premium experience, but I think what we're trying to do today is show you how you can't really take the pieces of it and create it yourself because of what they do. And that's just the reality. Like D23 is a premium priced experience, but once again, you're getting access and experiences that, just are simply unavailable. So you just have to decide, am I willing to pay it or not,
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, every ABD is a little different too. Obviously the private jet's different than a river cruise, different than a land-based tour in Wyoming, which is different than Japan or China.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not different is the service. And I would say this one probably, there's some tweaks that they may make operationally moving forward as they kind of learned it and did it. But you will see that I am sure that they will be more proactive as they get more experience under their belt about like handling little hiccups that may come. I mean, we didn't have anything major, but just little things like, if you wanted to go to the store, how to get back to the suite, and stuff like that. So Once again, nothing that's game changing, but usually every little detail on an ABD is thought through because they've done it so many times and they know where the hangups are. They know what the guests want. They get to know the guests, and I had a great time. It's different. It's shorter. It's like it was basically 4 days.
Yep.
But
once again, I didn't have to touch my bags. Right, I unpacked
yeah,
my bags. They're in my room. I
the
set them by the
snacks on the
door.
bus, those hallmarks of an
Yep.
ABD are still
And
there.
when we say snacks, it's a variety. I mean, they had Slim Jims, Oreos, potato chips, fig bars, fruit, just flat out candy, like Twizzler snacks. I mean, so it was a breadth of snacks available to you, and bottles of water, nice ice cold bottles of water available.
Yeah, I appreciate because I lost a lot of weight during D23 because I didn't have time to eat. So it was nice that they were able to get me back to my fighting weight.
I did not. Yeah, I put on a few. I told Doobie I put on a few pounds ago to hit the bike a little extra over the next few days. In my case, it's to make up for the beer. I have never consumed so much beer so consistently in my adult life. Not ever. A couple of beers each game, maybe 3 at one of them. Yeah, over the course of the weekend. Yeah, that was a lot of beer, calories.
And I'm happy to say no one over consumed, and
No.
therefore there was no sort of limitation.
Mm-mm.
You never felt they were. If you want, I kept going up to the bar because I was thirsty. It was wanted water, and they had like bottles of water at I guess Yankee Stadium, and I kept going. I was like, I'm sorry I'm bothering you, but I'm just really thirsty. It's like, oh, no problem. Like, you
Yep.
never felt like I couldn't ask for something or
Right. Yep.
So.
Woohoo! Well, I guess we covered it all at this point, huh? I'm kind of sad to like stop talking about it because that feels like it's actually over. Because all throughout the trip, we were talking about how we were gonna talk about this. So if it kind of made the trip like extend because I was doing my prep for this, and going through my notes and everything. And
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I keep checking the website to see if they have like an update.
do you? Oh, it was so much fun.
I mean, and I'm not one to. I've done a lot of Disney stuff, so I'm not one to really get too excited about things.
You don't. Yeah, no, you don't. Because like my husband couldn't sleep the days leading up to this. He was so pumped, and he was asking you, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm going."
No, I mean, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but we do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
this was I don't want to say it was a burden, but I was just like, okay, like I was thinking about the things I was doing beforehand until the day before. I mean, because I had another thing I was doing. I was in Washington D.C. and I was going to be going straight from Washington D.C. to Boston, but then Disney World summoned me, and so I had to go down to Florida and then fly back up. So this was already like midway through a trip, and it was just sort of a segment of it. So I was already kind of pooped and just like, okay, let's see what happens here. And I didn't have time to get excited. And and I've seen, I'm curious to see how it played out. But then I think it was when Dave O'Brien was just there, and we could see Fenway Park, and he's just like, I mean, that total baseball broadcaster voice that Dave O'Brien has, right?
Yeah.
And just he's like, you're getting ready for an exciting, and you're like, oh wow, this is gonna be kind of cool, huh? And then they kept introducing us to ESPN people, and I don't know what half of them do like regularly, but there just seemed to be constant, and as you got to know them, you're like, oh, like this is fun. Let's have some chat. Like let's talk. And so it really became. It just became a blast. I mean, and you're like, it's like, you almost want to be like, the only hard part is like, how friendly can I be with these people now? Like, Doobie's already DMing Hembo, and you're like,
sound like a million times. It was more like a thank you so much for your time. It was like
you don't want to. I mean, I am a fanboy in a manner of speaking, but you don't want to become too, or it becomes phony, right? But I just had a great time, and so I want to express it. I want to share. I want to make sure that they know that their hard work. That I'm sure this was years in the making, right?
Right.
actually, was worth it. And we had special moments. And
We
because
really
I don't
did.
know that ESPN, they understand that. Like at Disney, they understand about creating magical moments, right? That's the business.
Yes.
But ESPN's not it's about serving sports fans. It's not about, giving once in a lifetime opportunities to experience things. Like that's not, maybe a V Foundation auction or something, but like,
Right.
it's not a business form until now. And I
Mhm.
think, you know, it'll be, it was, it's, it, they, I was nervous a little bit about, will they be able to execute?
Mhm.
Sometimes when parts of the company that don't actually engage with guests try and engage with guests, it doesn't end well because they think it's easy. They don't appreciate it. And I think ESPN was wise enough to engage Adventures by Disney, who does engage with guests. So it wasn't, they didn't have to figure that out because it's not as easy as it looks. Dietary restrictions are not as easy as it looks to deal with. Getting people from point A to point B, negotiating with hotels, all that stuff, it seems easy on paper, but when you actually have to do it with 30 guests breathing down your neck, it's not as easy as you think.
Mhm.
And by doing that, they really, I think, delivered the best of both worlds. I mean, Hannah Montana, eat your heart out. It's like, you had the ESPN part was amazing, but then you had the ABD part, which, they always do a great job with those things. So um, they should be proud of their work.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely more magical than I expected. Things like the Philly fanatic kind of stumbling into the suite, and Wally showing up when we were getting ready to head over to the Green Monster. Moments like that just were, and then you expected when you heard things like you're going to get earlier access to stuff. That was nice, but then the fact that we had such engaging hosts throughout it, that was the fact that they made us feel so welcome at ESPN still blows my mind because we were in their space. We were in their office. Like you say, I've taken tours
Don't
of
come here and do that. Don't. The LP tour will not let you go
yeah,
there.
no, yeah. I've taken tours of working facilities, and you definitely feel like it's a working facility, and they are like, I have work to do, move on. And they didn't ever make us feel that way. And I'm forever appreciative of that they let us invade their space and made us feel like they wanted us to be there. It was super, super awesome. And there's a reason why they're celebrating 45 years as a brand, ESPN, for sure. And that couldn't have been more apparent than during this trip, kind of why that brand is, you know, still here, still loved.
And still belongs to part of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
It's just storytelling. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's
For sure.
I would say there's other sports brands that
Yeah.
focus more on the yelling and not the. I mean, they all do it to a point. Obviously, the
Oh, of
Olympics,
course.
NBC does a great job, but like
Yeah.
watching the sports reporters on YouTube or
It was so good to be back.
yeah, some of those college game day features they have, and Sports Center featured My Wish. If you get a chance to check that out, it's a Sports Center initiative they have. It's it makes sense that there's going to be an ESPN tile on Disney Plus because it's just another avenue of storytelling, and at the core, that's all Disney does. I mean, that's what makes something feel a part of Disney is
Mm-hmm.
they're telling great stories.
Yep.
These just happen to be real.
Yep. So good. So yeah, so check it out.
Good, so good.
Um,
I see what you did there.
very good. They they Ben wrote up his experiences throughout the
But
trip.
by the way, doing singing "Sweet Caroline" at Fenway Park is just as energetic as you would expect.
It was everything I always wanted it to be. And being able to just constantly tell people when they're like, "Oh, you're so excited to be here," I'm like, "Yes, where they filmed Fever Pitch." I'm so excited to be where they filmed Fever Pitch.
Which our ESPN coach Mike also loves. So
Yep, it was good. And that was, oh yeah, no, just being able to turn and just have an in-depth conversation with somebody about sports was fun. it's like, oh,
But
it's
no gatekeeping either. It wasn't like, oh,
mm-mm,
you
mm-mm.
don't know who is leading the league in home runs, or whatever. It was nice.
Exactly. Yep. No, it was super awesome, and I'm eager to do it again at some point, and hope that other people have a chance to try it out. I'm scared for them. Like
Come
I
on,
didn't.
Shelly, let's do it. Let's do it next time, you and me.
There you go.
Me.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess that's it for us from now, huh?
Yeah, that's enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what we got going on. It's Halloween time. It's Halloween around all the other places, so you can see a lot of scary stuff. Boo.
Yep.
And then Alex is at a Tell Me Lies screening tonight, so enjoy that.
Okay. We'll be here Monday afternoon talking about the latest in Disney Parks news. So be sure to stop by for that.
And despite my little enthusiasm for the Disney Treasure, the Disney Destiny sales start on Friday, depending on what kind of Castaway Club member you are. So, don't forget to keep an eye out on that and book with our friends at Mouse Fan Travel, who can also book ESPN Experiences. So,
for sure. If you're thinking about it, check out our friends over at Mouse Fan Travel. Talk with them about an ESPN experience, and at least they need to make the page be like, alert me.
I know, like, I hope that they I don't, how there's like Adventure Insiders, there's Castaway Club, there's like that repeat guest thing. I hope
Yeah,
that they do that for ESPN Experiences, because
that'd be
I want to
fun.
be a ESPN Experience Insider, or whatever they call it, and just so I know and I can book early. And
That works. Okay. I guess
bye,
that's it
everybody.
for now. Bye.